We start with a pastime which was popular at the turn of the 19th century. Handball was included in the GAA Charter laid down in 1884, and of course part of its appeal was it was a cheap and easy game to play, which essentially only needed 2 players, a ball and a high wall. Locally, we can trace this sport back to at least before the famine times, as there was a ball alley recorded on the Fair Green at Cross, and later one was built against the old flour mill in Clashmore village. This is a story from 1847 which illustrates the popularity of the game at that time.
Tommaso Corrine was at the fair at Kiley's Cross one day. It wasn't his first time there, of course, but sadly it was his last time there, or indeed his last time in any place except his home, as it wasn't too long he lived after it. There was a handball competition on the same day between Old Parish and Clashmore, 2 aside, and the Corrinoch was one of the lads playing for Old Parish. There was a pub there at the Cross, there still is today, just a few feet from where the fair was being held. And there was a place behind this house where the handball was always held. It was a fine place for it. Handball was held in great esteem at this time, and it's few parishes that wouldn't have a game after Sunday lunch, be it for fun or a serious game. On this Sunday at Kiley's Cross, however, it was certainly a serious game. Every man was up for it, and both sides determined not to let the other take the day. There was next to nothing between the 2 teams on this day. They were well able for each other, and believe you me, there certainly wasn't a hole in their hands. As quick as the ball would come flying towards one of them, it would be belted back again at a great speed. It wasn't long until those at the fair, or most of them anyway, were gathered, watching the game and encouraging them on. It then happened that the ball was coming towards Tommaso Corrine, and coming at him at a ferocious pace. Of course, all the Old Parish people were egging him on as best they could. "Go on, Tomas," they'd shout. "Think of your mother's people." Whatever happened to it, didn't the ball go astray, and it was clear to Tomas that it would go out of play, and the only thing that would stop it would be the road. He wouldn't allow himself give the Clashmoremen the satisfaction of letting it go, for they wouldn't let him forget it, so didn't he give a leap up from the place where he was standing, and dived over a small ditch that was beside him, till he belted the ball back into play again. Well, that was the shouting and roaring and applause from the old parishioners. But 'twasn't too long before those shouts of praise changed to wails of agony, as they realised that poor Tomas was badly hurt, and that an end had come to his sporting achievements. The poor man had gone above the call of duty, and had to be carried home to Angowlan on a cart, as he couldn't walk a step, nor have broken an egg under his foot, he was so lame. He was taken to the bed, and didn't arise from it again, but spent the rest of his time as a patient, until God called him home. Afterwards the jump was measured, and from the place he sprang to the place he fell, there was a full 27 foot between them. Little wonder it broke him. You'd say it was enough for a bird to fly that distance, but a bird wouldn't do it as quick as he did, and sure wasn't he out on the road before the ball. The poor man pushed himself too far, but you can't change someone's nature. His memory will live in people's memories forever, and 'tis long there'll be talk of Tomás O'Corrine on Gowlan.
But of course, football and hurling were the real flag bearers for the newly formed Gaelic Athletic Association, and football was especially popular in this area. Clashmore and Kinsalebeg played as separate clubs in those early days, with Kinsalebeg playing in the very first county final against Ballysaggart and winning the following year. Of course, Clashmore became a real football powerhouse in the early 1900s, becoming 5 in a row county champions between 1903 and 1907. Here is a piece describing Clashmore's most famous moment, when they held Kerry to a draw in the Munster final of 1905.
The attendance which witnessed a tussle for the Munster Football Final 1904 played in the Cork Athletic Grounds yesterday was not at all up to expectation. The weather was favourable, and the contest was followed with considerable interest. Tralee represented the kingdom, and Clashmore did duty for Waterford. From the Kerry team, 4 prominent players were absent, namely James Gorman, D. Curtin, J. F. Fitzgerald and R. Kerwin. Clashmore laboured under greater disadvantage owing to the unusual action of Waterford County Board in not allowing the champion team to effect their own selection. The result was that Clashmore had virtually to defend the honour of Waterford with their own players. This they did magnificently and well, though there were some fears that Waterford would have been completely outclassed by their opponents. The game was exceedingly fast during the entire 60 minutes. Waterford had undoubtedly the best of the first half hour, which closed with their leading by a point. In the second half, Kerry attacked repeatedly. Waterford's defence was each time of the soundest description. Their full did Herculean work for his side and was successful in neutralising what appeared inevitable scores. With the score standing level, 3 points each, excitement reached a high point, and though strenuous efforts were made by both teams to improve their respective positions, the full-time whistle sounded with the situation unaltered, namely Kerry 3 points, Waterford 3 points. Play at periods of the game was rough, and frees were by no means infrequent. The Kerry representatives were disposed to play for an extended period with a view to deciding the issue. It was proposed to play 15 minutes each way, but owing to the advanced hour of the evening, the Waterford men did not see their way to accede to the wish of their opponents. At a meeting of the Munster Council held after the match, it was decided to have the replay take place in Dungarvan on the 7th of January.
This area might not be synonymous with equestrian sports today, but in the past, horse racing and hunting were a keenly followed pastime. Hunting has always been a popular pursuit, as indeed it is today, with the long-established West Waterford Hunt still quite active. And of course, the famed Kilmaloo stud flew the horse breeding flag for many years. There was a time when steeplechase or point-to-point races were also a very popular pursuit, as the following piece from 1864 will illustrate.
These races, which gave rise to considerable excitement, came off on Thursday last at the Clashmore racecourse, where I dare say the present generation never before saw such a number of people congregated on the course to witness the sports, as on this present occasion. From an early hour, the little village was astir with the cardmen passing along the different streets announcing correct lists and bills of the races. These were eagerly bought up by all intending to enjoy the sports. The weather, which since Monday was exceedingly boisterous, with heavy and almost constant rain, now assumed the rather mild and cheering aspect, which, although not very promising, revived the hopes of a pleasant day's amusement to hundreds who would otherwise have been deterred from attending through fear of a drenching. All the railway trains which arrived brought in hundreds from every direction, and at 11:30 o'clock the different thoroughfares of the village were thronged by strangers from every quarter. As time rolled on, the multitudes increased, nothing being talked of but the races. Every available vehicle in Dungarvan and Youghal and for miles around were in requisition for the conveyance of passengers from both places to the running ground. The roads were literally black with pedestrians, male and female, winding their way to the scene of gaiety. At 12:30 o'clock, the fashionable circles were on the qui vive, with the leading families dashing forward in their equipages to witness the sports. The whole scene was animating to witness, as there was no less than 7,000 people congregated on the course. Owing to the previous heavy rains, as above stated, the ground was heavy and muddy in many parts. Upon the whole, however, it was in rather good condition. Great praise is due to the Clashmore bandsmen, who played throughout the day a selection of airs on the temporary but firm orchestra, which was erected by the stewards for their accommodation. Here also present were leading patrons of the turf, as there was no standhouse erected at the time. The tents were put up to the best possible style and seemed to do a good trade in the old malt. The usual roulette tables were at work, along with various other games and amusements incidental to such meetings being carried on in different parts of the course. The stewards were unremitting in the discharge of their duties and deserved much praise for the excellence of general arrangements. But to the collecting committee, the public at large are indebted for their great zeal and untiring exertions in raising such a very large amount of fundraising.
West Waterford Hounds 1928. This pack, under the mastership of Miss Dorothy Musgrave, has been showing excellent sport during the present season. From a recent Aglish meet after a late start owing to fog, we found a leash of foxes in Dromore. After the hounds divided and covered, both lots went away at different lower ends and ran on parallel lines for the big woods of Dromana, 3 miles away, on the outskirts of which both lots were lucky to be stopped. With the hounds being got together again, we went to Cooneen, a gorse covert on the banks of the Blackwater. Quickly finding their way, the hounds ran on to Coolba. Skirting that covert, our pilot led us on through Ballynaclash to Mr. John Flavin's sandpits. Finding them stopped, he went on by Clashmore into Sleveen Covert, and driving him out of that, the hounds hunted across the Gyosh Clashmore Road, on by Mr. Kennedy's house through Ballymulta and Cross. Turning sharp to the left, we recrossed the Gyosh Clashmore Road and went through Knockaneris and Craigs for Lacansilla. Before reaching that covert, they swung left-handed across the Aglish Road, over the point-to-point course at Scart, on by Mr. Beston's house and over the hill to Dromore, where the hounds were stopped in the dusk after a fine fox hunt of 1 hour 35 minutes. Clashmore was the meet the day following the hunt ball. After a couple of rings of Sleveen, we went on to the Slate Quarries. Finding a good fox there that broke at the east end of the covert, we ran on over the top of the glen to Grilla. Crossing the road near that old fox hunter, Mr. Michael O'Brien's house, the hounds rattled at a rare pace by the old fort through Ballylangdon. On then to Grange, crossing the Dungarvan-Youghal road near the chapel at Ballybrusa, and went on sharp left-handed into and across Conway's Glen. Running on parallel to the glen to the near end of it, the hounds turned again sharp to the left and ran hard into Glen Corran, and through there onto the cliffs at Corbally, where they were with difficulty stopped after nailing a hunt of 35 minutes, a 5-mile point, and a lot more as the hounds ran.
Conrad de Gaeilge, or the Gaelic League, is an organisation which promotes the Irish language in Ireland and around the world, and was founded in 1893 with Douglas Hyde as its first president. This movement was at its strongest around the turn of the 19th century, and an ardent supporter of this was our parish priest at the time, Father Thomas Power, who took it upon himself to organise an Irish concert in 1905 under the auspices of the local Gaelic League branch. It had an Irish play as its centrepiece, but also included music, dancing and singing on the bill. Here is a report on the entertainment one might have witnessed on that night.
On Friday night, in the presence of a very large and enthusiastic audience, was staged by the members of the local branch the Irish play An Ducht Tuair, which was thoroughly and universally enjoyed by all who came to witness it. To the Clashmore branch belonged the honour of being the first in this county to stage an Irish play, and the members thereof, individually and collectively, are to be heartily congratulated on the grand success which attended every detail in connection with the entertainment. To the Reverend President, Father T. Power, Parish Priest, the best thanks of the members of the local branch are justly due. He has, while in the parish, always supported the Gaelic League in and out of season. He is a staunch supporter of Irish manufactured goods, and he is always willing to allow the use of his splendid schools for all Gaelic League meetings. The genial and popular Timor na Naoise came at much inconvenience from Waterford City, but he was well repaid. He felt justly proud of the splendid talent exhibited by his Clashmore friends. When the curtain had dropped at the end of the play and before the concert commenced, he seized the opportunity of addressing the audience. When the curtain was raised, the gaze of no fewer than 250 persons was riveted on the stage, which latter was specially erected for the occasion and was beautifully fitted up and illuminated. Each character felt quite at home in his or her part. The following are the names of those who participated in the play, with the character personated by each. An Ducht Tuair, Mr. Martin O'Brien. An Scoláidín, Mr. Patrick Bagg. Taig O'Chlúnan, Mr. John Halloran. Micheál Ray, Mr. John Broderick. Fear Tuaithe, Mr. Michael Canúir. Larry, Mr. Patrick Torpy. An Páiste, Master Thomas Hurton. Ban Haig, Miss Mary D. And Ban Deirce Maureen, Miss Peg Connery. At the conclusion of the play, an Irish concert was given, which was quite as successful and as well received. It was opened by the dancing of a 4-hand reel by the members of the branch, namely Miss D and Miss Connery, Mr. Broderick and Mr. Halloran. This delightful and exclusively Irish entertainment was brought to a close by the dancing of the 4-hand reel by members who participated in the play. They appeared in their disguises, and this item was the crowning success of the evening. At its termination, Father Gleeson expressed the very great pleasure it gave him to be present. He had never been so delighted in all his life, and he highly complimented all present for the manner in which they conducted themselves during the evening, and he pointed out that the night's splendid entertainment was a brilliant example of what could be done by unity, energy and perseverance.
Finally, we have a short piece which gives us a flavour of the local fairs that used to run regularly in the parish, namely Clashmore and Cross. As well as the buying and selling of stock, fairs were known to be events of great mirth and entertainment, and patrons would come from afar to enjoy the associated pastimes and festivities.
Fairs used to be held around here long ago. There was one held in Cross and one in Clashmore. The one in Clashmore used to be held at least 4 times a year, and the one in Ballinamultana was held 3 times a year. On Easter Tuesday, September 8th and November 13th. It took place at the Fair Green at Cross. It can be traced back to at least 1792 and for at least 100 years hence. It was a very well attended event, with animals of every kind being brought along for selling. They used to put a certain mark with tar on the cattle, rattle on the sheep and wheel grease on the pigs. The buyers used to go from house to house buying the stock. They gave a shilling or 2 earnest on every head of stock they would buy, which was a deposit to guard against animals being resold. Once a deal had been struck between farmers, it was time to partake of a drink at Troy's licensed premises at the Cross and enjoy the many sideshows that went hand in hand with the fairs. There was the customary game of handball played at the ball alley, as well as card games, and of course there would be music, dancing and storytelling long into the evening for the patrons to enjoy. The fair is not held there any longer, as many of the men were only concerned with faction fighting. The night before the fair, they used to get blackthorn sticks ready for this purpose. There was a man out the mountain whose name was Donica Anrainka. He had 3 sticks, and he used to take off his coat and drag it around the fair, and if anyone would stand on it, then a fight would start. Since that time, the only markets are now held in the bigger towns like Dungarvan.
The second part of this video is a brief but colourful recalling of some of the pastime-related stories from the school's folklore collection of the 1930s, as told by the school children themselves.
There are a lot of pastimes for boys and girls, such as hide and go seek. This game is a nice one. Some of the children go a hide and the rest of them go to seek for them. Another game they play is picky. This game is played by putting squares out in the road and putting a picky stone from one square to the other. Another game that is played is blind man's buff. This game is played by blindfolding one of the children, and the rest of them would gather around him, and the first one that would be caught would be the next to be blindfolded. A game for the boys is putting out snares for catching rabbits. The boys also play football and hunting. A game for girls is playing with dolls and making dresses for them. They also get a long string to make daisy chains. They get a long string and make a hole in the daisies and put the string through them. Another game the children play is hoops and going for races with them. Nora Ormond, Ballyheeney.
There are lots of games that children play for pastimes, such as skipping, playing marbles, playing ball, and many others. People do not play those as much in the country as in the towns. Children used to also play with daisies. They would make necklaces with them. They would get a thread and put the daisies on it, and then tie the thread. They used to also play with a plant called a soldier. 2 people would get them and start hitting each other's soldiers with them. Whoever would break the most soldiers would win.
Football was a very nice game. There were many games of football played in Clashmore long ago, but now it has all died down. There was a great couple of players from Clashmore. The players used to be dressed in different coloured jerseys. Some of them used to be dressed in blue and green jackets. The ball they used for a football was very small, not like the one they have now. They do not play as much football these days as long ago. Besides football and hurling, they also played handball and camogie. Bridie Ronan Coolbath.
The games I play are slashing tops, rolling wheels, playing pitch and toss, and blind man's buff. In the summer, I would go around the fields picking blackberries and bring them home, and my mother would make jam out of them. Myself and my brother, some evenings, would go looking for birds' nests in the summertime. When people are playing pitch and toss, they bet big money. Sometimes many of them get broke. You would see some men and they would lose all they would have. Young boys find great fun in these games.
Children play many kinds of games. Some of them are Ring-a-Rosy, I Lost My Glove Yesterday, Ali-Ali-O, Picky, Gobs, Drafts, Cards, Frog in the Middle, Shove a Halfpenny, and so on. Ring-a-Rosy is a very simple game. It is played between 12 girls. They all twist around the road together, with their hands joined. I Lost My Glove Yesterday is played much like Ring-a-Rosy. The games played inside a house are card playing, drafts, and Shove a Halfpenny. Maryville, Ballyheeney.
Long ago, football was a very rough game. They had no special number in the team, only as many good men as they could get in the parish. The fences of the field where they would play would be the goalposts and the sidelines. There were no togs or football boots, only a homemade pants and a flannel waistcoat. There was no special time for the match to last, only whatever side would hold up the longest, playing and no referee. The ball they had was heavy and had no hop. It was made from the bladder of a pig. Piltown and Clashmore were the only two parishes that used to play the game against each other around here. The strongest man in the team would be the captain. The team that would put the ball over the fence first would take the ball and run for miles away with it. Christina Murphy, Coolbath.